Okay, so welcome to this session number 3, when we're going to talk about merge finances. Um, Let me put up the presentation for you so I don't forget any of the topics. Okay. Wait, there you go. Back to this. You can let me know if you see the presentation right now. I think it's appearing, right? You can see it. Perfect. Okay, so my name is Daniela de la Rosa, and I am the finance coordination. So I am part of the leadership team, and pretty much this is part of my role, coordinate the finances. So I'm just gonna go over a little bit of the things that I do, so you kind of know what I can help you with and what I usually do on daily basis. Oops. Okay, so what I do, some of the things that I do is I can put in the middle there. I provide guidance and support to the coaches in the financial area of our ministry. So I'm always available for any questions that you may have prior to the trip, as you are planning the trip, or even during the trip. When you have a team, I will always be able to answer the questions for you. So yeah, don't feel that you have to do it even on only on an email. You can also use WhatsApp if you have any kind of questions. I also develop tools that help coaches manage the ministry resources in an effective way and responsible. You know, we are called to be good stewards of the resources that God has given us. And it's not only because we're a ministry and we fundraise and we take care of, we want to be responsible with the resources that are donated by the people that support us, but also because even in our personal finances, like I think God calls us to do good stewards of what we have received. So the tools that I'm developing is also to help us do that. I also facilitate the access to these resources when needed by communicating with Dale and the office. I review tables and formats and tools that I developed so we can improve every year. I give guidance, train, advise, and supervise the money reported of each coach, ask for accountability of the money given to each merge coach, and create an accounting materials that each coach must have for effective money management. Um, Also assist with general budgets, set merge fees each year because we want to make sure we are considering the context, the financial context of each country, and also like international, like inflation and the cost of living. So every year we set these fees. Also keep track of the money sent to each of the coaches. Send reminders for professional expense account and keep track of how is spent. If you don't know what's professional expense, don't worry, we're going to talk about it later. And also keep track of the ministry numbers of the trips. We're also going to talk about this later. So pretty much uh, help you to take care of the resources that we get. So answering some of like the most frequent questions, these will be some of the answers. So what is merge money that now we actually call contingency money? Well, this is an amount of either cash, I mean, given in person, or money in your account, whatever merge can send you a wire. Um, and this is money available for like available when you have a team. We do try to avoid wire transfer fees. So that's what you're probably going to have two teams, but you have it at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. So, what we will probably do is send you the money all together. So especially when it's really hard for you to get the money. So we can reduce those wire transfers. Nevertheless, with this new system that we have with the ECC, it's harder and harder for us to be able to send money. So yeah, like those extra money, that's what I mean. Money that you will hang on to. So we will give you a specific amounts of money, usually based on the budget that you turn in for a team. And then whatever you have left over from that team, we will call it contingency money, which are funds available for emergencies or extra expenses. And then you can use them to reimburse. So also you need approval for to expend this contingency money. And how can you use that contingency money? Well, let me tell you. Let's say that you have a team, you have leftover money because I don't know, um, the food you didn't spend that. That's usually what the extra money that you will have, or the contingency money. It will be money that you didn't use for food usually. So what you can use this money for is that you can reimburse yourself when we send you your professional expense account, or when you get a stipends for the year, or any extra bonus. But you always need to have um, approval to spend that money. Okay. So even if you're like, oh, I'm hanging on to this money that I have left over, yes, but you need approval to spend it. But that's the way you can use it, okay? When you get extra bonuses or for your professional expense. So let me go and continue with the questions. Okay, so then how do I get paid? Well, you get paid per trip you lead and plan as a coach. Also, if you help as a translator or as an interpreter in another trip, you also get paid for that. This year, this 2025, the stipend was 395 USD, and you might also get a bonus, and that amount depends on how many teams we get as a ministry each year. So for example, for trainings or for extra sessions or anything else, you get bonuses for that, because we know we want to honor the time you invested. So besides that money, or that, yeah, stipend you get for planning a trip, you get extra things when you participate in an event, or when you get extra training online and things like that. Okay. And we will let you know, because that amount, as I said, varies depending on how many teams we have a year. So how do I ask for money? Well, before each trip, you need to turn in a budget. The ideal is to actually turn in this budget 4 months in advance to Dale, which is our merch consultant. And we will send you the money before the trip. Remember, if you follow the planning sheet, you will not like forget about it. Also, according to planning sheet, needs to be completed 2 months before the trip. But 4 months will be great, because remember, the teams are fundraising the money to go on the trip. So as soon as possible, like if they know ahead of time how much money they need to fundraise, that's like super good for the team. So let's say that you don't have the budget for the entire trip, but you already have transportation set up, or housing, or ministry expenses. You keep sending those to Dale. Don't wait until you have the entire budget, because it will help us to keep building the budget, and just to keep communicating with the team. So that's super helpful, okay? Um, yes, and as I said, if you follow the planning sheet, you will not forget about this. Um, so in case you run out of money in the middle of the trip, um, then please contact Dale so he can send you emergency money. Okay. This may happen if you have like something unexpected coming up, right? So please make sure you send that emergency email or call or text to Dale, so we can make sure that you get the money and whenever you need it. So more questions. How do I know if some of my expenses are covered or not? Well, if you're not sure about an expense, you can always check with me, and I can go over with you of those expenses. I really suggest, especially with professional expense, I will suggest you ask before you spend the money, because then if it's not part of that budget, especially with professional expense, if we cannot cover that because it does not apply, then you will need to cover that expense for yourself. So my suggestion is like, well, I'm not sure if it's something that I can spend money on. You can ask me, and we can make sure uh, that it's covered. So then you will get reimbursed for that. So then, how do I send my money reports or money logs to? We will see an example later on. But you have to send your money logs, that's what we call, which is your report of how you spend your money during the trip. And this is within 30 days after the team leaves your site. You have to send it to Dale and then CC me. Again, remember this is on the planning sheet, so you don't have to worry like, oh, I will forget, because as long as you continue following your planning sheet, you will find it over there. This one in report, this one it says 30 days after the team leaves. This is talking about the money logs of that money is spent with the teams. But there are also other money that you need to keep track on, and that will be the contingency money, for example. And that only requires a money log. That doesn't have a specifically like 30 days before and after, like a set time. It's more like when we ask you like, hey, how are you? Can you send us your report of how are you spending the contingency money? Then you know you have it ready, okay? Um, so then what are ministry numbers and how do I send them? Well, ministry numbers are the amount of people that participated on the different activities during a trip with a team. So let's say that you had a kids program and then you have a women's ministry. So I would like you to, we need you to keep track of how many people participated because we keep track of all of those numbers along the year. Uh, so as many details as you can share with me on an email, that will help me a lot. So there's not any specific way you have to turn in this ministry numbers. Just give me a lot of information and I may ask some questions later on. Um, in case there's something I don't understand, so we can keep track of those. So please send them to me whenever you can. What you can do is whenever you send your money log, the 30 days after, you just also send them the ministry numbers. So how do I get paid to participate in merge events or trainings? We already talked about that, but we don't get specifically per event or training or extra task. However, the leadership team gives you a bonus each year that is to compensate for your participation events, trainings, and tasks throughout the year. So we do, as I said, we do want to honor all the efforts and time you put into, you know, being with merge and participating with merge. As I said, we don't have a specific amount of money per task or per session or per training, but we will make sure that we let you know and that we can honor that time. So we will use the bonus from the leadership team budget, and I will notify you like you got this bonus this year. How do I get money? Well, we need to figure out the best way to get money in your country and also for like personally for you. And this can be either like wire transfer, Western Union, Zoom, maybe in person. Can be cash when let's say that you have a visit from Dale or another coach. Give me 1 second. And And yeah, so we can give you the money in cash if it's really hard for you to get it. It really depends on your country, the fees, and the amount of money. Because sometimes it can be that your bank has a specific limits for money that you get as wire transfer from other countries. It can be a problem with, it can be the fee too high. So yeah, with this new financial system that we have with the ECC, it takes between 2 and 4 weeks for the money to actually be sent. So you have to consider that when you ask for the budget for teams. So as I said, continue to give us information about your budget. Don't wait until you have all of it because we want to make sure we can send you money considering like it takes really a long time. Um, yeah. So just and then also thank you so much if you already have experienced this waiting with us. Thank you so much for your patience because it's really taking a lot of time to be able for us to be able to send you money. Okay. So, let me see. Let me move the bar over here. Okay. So budgets. let's go over some of these things that we talk about and be more specific about what it means. So, budget for teams. This is your responsibility as a coach, and you need to contact Dale 4 months before the trip, as I said. So some of the items you can consider when you send a budget, it would be housing, ground transportation, which you have to think about not only the rental or not only the fuel that you're going to use for the cars, but also parking and also tolls. Okay. Any extra tax that you may get when you're going outside of the city or for renting a car, like just make sure you consider everything in the ground transportation. Also ministry expenses, and some examples are if you're going to have a meal with the church and the team is going to pay for it, then you have to add that budget on the list that you send, or materials for the program. So anything that they may need for the activities that they're going to do during the week, you have to add that on the budget. Sometimes the team brings the material. So if they're going to do that, you don't have to put that budget over there. But everything that you are going to spend on site, you have to put on the budget. Tourism, everybody gets a cultural day. Most of the team gets a cultural day. Sometimes they decide not to have it. But you have to consider all those expenses there. If you have extra ground transportation, if they're going to have a meal out at a restaurant, if there's an entrance to a museum, for example, like all of those things, they have to go on the budget of tourism. If like any shopping or anything that they may do personally, you don't have, of course, to add over there. Um, Also considering this budget, how many staff you need, if you need more than one interpreter, if you need um, uh, a construction person that will help you lead the project, or if you need people that will help you cook, you have to consider that staff so we know um, how to continue budgeting for you and the team. And how many dinners, if that applies. Like if they're gonna have a meal out in the middle of the day that is not part of the tourism day, then you have to make sure you put it over there. So, and that depends on the team. So that's what I said, if applicable, because it depends on the team. Also, when you set a budget, you have to consider any pre-trips for planning or any other expense that you have to do. Because sometimes the church or the ministry that you're going to be uh, visiting or working with is not on your area. So probably you need to take a bus, a 3-hour ride in a bus, or maybe a plane. So just consider all those expenses. We want to make sure you don't put anything from your pocket, but we do need to know of the budget of those expenses. So before you do it, you make sure you list most of the expenses or all of your expenses, like if you're going to need housing, if you're going to need transportation, any other expense that you may do during those pre-trips, and send them ahead of time. Because we want to make sure that we reimburse that to you. So consider that. Also, try to think about the exchange rate. Um, so when you, for example, when you're getting a wire, sometimes the bank give you a really bad exchange rate, more than if you would get it in cash. So just kind of like check when you're gonna decide the the channel that you're gonna get the money from. Try to check some of the exchange rates, because you may think like, oh yeah, with $20 I can cover this expense, but then with exchange rate, you can actually get $15 and you will be $5 short. So kind of consider that when you're budgeting. Um, and you can check different exchange rates in the banks around you or in the exchange houses. Like you can just check that, and then that will help you to have more an accurate budget for that. Um, it's also important to do your best to stay within the budget. I know that sometimes when we have a team, we can have unexpected expenses, and we know that. But that's why we want you to work on a budget, and we're more than happy to help you build that budget, because when we get out of that budget, it's really a problem for the entire ministry. It really hits all of us. So, yeah, so try your best to stay within the budget. So I will give you a couple of tips later on And one of those right now that I can give you is buy according to the profile of your team. For example, sometimes when you get like youth groups, they eat like crazy, they eat a lot. So try to give probably more local food or add some snacks, right? But if you have a team that it's a in multi-generational team, or if it's or most of them are only adults, they are not likely to eat some of the things that we have on our merch list. For example, all the sugary cereal, if you have elderly people or more or all adults, they tend to not eat the cereal at all, like all the sugary cereal that we usually get for teens. So it will be really good to consider the profile of your team. Sometimes I ask questions like, do you drink coffee? So if they say, oh no, we're more like tea people. Oh, great. So then I totally avoid buying coffee. Or and I know that, like most of you are like in other countries. So like you can you can check what is in your area and maybe try to talk with the leaders or talk with the people that you're planning the trip with uh, to make sure you have options for them, but also to take like don't buy things they will never eat. So like one of those things could be cereal. For some people, like juices are not even an option. Like they rather just drink water the entire week and maybe some milk, but like even if it's on our list, most like what it helps us to stay within the budget is just try to have these conversations with the leaders ahead of time. Okay, so now next, tracking expenses or money log. The money log that I have already has formulas, okay? It's an Excel, they have the formulas set up. So when you need it, what pretty much what you need to do is just put all the expenses that you do and it will add up automatically. So I will send you an example right now. Um, it is very important to keep all the receipts with you. What I do is usually I have a Ziploc bag, and during the trip I continue to put all my receipts in that Ziploc bag, so I'm not like have one in my pocket and one in my backpack and one at my bedroom. So like I make sure everything is in one place. So when I do my final accounting, I have everything at hand. And you can actually add notes on the receipts, like make sure like, oh, this was this dinner, this was at this place, or is this plus tips. So all the notes that you want to write on the receipts to help you keep more accurate track of your expenses, feel free to do so, okay? Um, Sometimes we know that the local stores do not give you receipts. Like here, for example, I'm in Mexico City. Here, like a corner store will not give you a receipt. It's just like, yeah, this is how much it is. So, what is helpful is that uh, you can buy a book of receipts and make your own receipt. Sometimes the stores, I have been in different countries in Latin America, and they have a stamp that I can put on. Sometimes the lady signs the receipt, or she um, fill it up for you, or I make it because they just they don't have anything. But we just want to make sure that you keep track of every single expense, and you can buy that. And you're like, well, where do I get the money for that? Well, you can either get it from the budget of the team if you don't have a professional expense account, or if you do have an expense account, you can use your expense account for that. We just want you to have the resources you need for your financial reports. So yeah, you can talk to me about it, and I can help you to figure out those resources or things that you can buy to help you keep track. So let me see. I'm not really sure if the example is linked here. I think it is. Whoops. I don't think it is, but let me go back. Um, Here. Okay. So I hope you can see my screen. So for example, over here, this is the format that I will send to you, and then you just fill it up. But for example, over here in the top corner, I have all the information for the team. This was a team from Houston going to the Dominican Republic, specifically to Puerto Plata. Oh, Wait, I have a question. Oh, yeah, good. And then I put the dates underneath. This is not only helpful for us as the office, but also for you to keep track of what is this? Oh, then yes, here is, and I had it during this dates. So this information is super important, so we know. And then here in the beginning, we have the main items to consider on the budget. So here you can put the this will be empty. So you will need to fill this column over here with the original budget that was sent by Dale. And then you don't have to worry about this second column because this one is the one that builds up as you fill up the entire sheet. One of the things that you do need to fill up is also this exchange rate over here. When you put here the number of how much of your local coin equals $1, then the entire thing will convert to dollars in some of the cells automatically. So,
Daniela,
Steve,
excuse me, I have a question.
of course,
In that case, with exchange rate, you won't ask us to have a everyday exchange rate, just a general exchange rate?
that's a good question. Yeah, you can have a general. Let's say that you got the money and you will put the exchange rate of how you got the money. So if it was a wire transfer and the bank gave you I don't know, 59 as this example, then
Mhm.
that's the exchange rate you will use. Not really the exchange rate during the days that the team was there, but the exchange rate that the bank used to give you the money. You know what I mean?
Yes, thank
Unless
you.
like if you have a cash and you're exchanging every day, which it also happens, what you can do is just get an average of the exchange rate you got. But if not, then whatever exchange rate you use to exchange the money at the beginning of the trip, then that's the one that you put over there. Mhm,
Okay, thank you.
mhm, yeah. Good question. So then, here, for example, under this item is food. And then here I just put food because sometimes it's like it was the corner store or it was, I don't know, expense that didn't have any specific name of the market. And this was probably market. So I just put this and then I have in my personal receipt. So this is the budget and this one builds up um, automatically. And this one too, the one in color. And then you just keep putting the different expenses that you have in local coin. If you use the orange column, it will be in local coin. If you use this green one, it will be in dollars. So my suggestion is just do it in local coin. So then, for example, I have here La Sirena, which is like a supermarket. I have here a lunch because it was a local lunch. And then this one is more like a specific items like juice and ice. Ooh, ice it was without an H, sorry. Um, and things like that that you water, and local dinners, for example. This is usually the money that people in the local church will spend, but you still need to get those receipts from the local people that are cooking for you. So you get those receipts and then you put the total spent over here. For example, these 13,000 is from like the local meals that the church was cooking for us. So these will add up automatically and it will say how much you have left over and it will give you a balance in USD. But you don't have to worry about this because they will just add up. So don't erase any column. That's another thing. Don't erase. You can keep adding, but just don't erase. Um, then ground transportation, the same. You just keep track of the expenses. In this case, this team, the van was from the church, so we only spent gas. But when I go to other places, sometimes we have to rent a van and we have tolls that we have to go through and like I'm parking at the airport. So all those things I will keep those expenses over here and it's the same, it will add up. I also put the stipends, the staff expenses that say that you had to eat at the airport or maybe the entire team decided to have an ice cream and I mean, they're not inviting you the ice cream. You can totally use this expense money to get that ice cream at that moment. And this is also for the staff, not only for you as a coach, but consider the staff that it's serving with you. Okay. So, like if you're gonna have a meeting with them and they need a break and you guys can go and have a coffee and talk about it, have a devo, pray together, solve some of the things that are happening during the week, like you can use these as staff expenses. As I said, if you're not sure if it can be covered with this money, you can always text me and I can let you know, right? But of course we don't want to go over. Sometimes when it's like a hotel night, for example, in this case, that it was more like an unexpected expense, then we went over budget. But if it would be only snacks, I would say like try to not go over budget for snacks. Um, then also ground transportation for staff, or how much it took for the staff to actually get there. In this case, they have to take a bus, rent a car, taxis home, and things like that. So they add up over here. Okay, but remember, all these green things, these items need to be part of your budget. So if you're like, one of the things that I will suggest, or that it's really helpful when you are planning, is like try to go through the entire trip in your mind. So let's say that you're traveling and you're going to a different site far away from your local area. You're like, I have to take a taxi to the airport. I have to take a plane. And then the trip is probably, I don't know, 8 hours. So of course I need to eat. And then once I get down, I have to take a bus. So then I also have to add that. And then I don't know, taking the pasture with me. So that's double budget for that. It will be two bus tickets. So things like that that will help you build the budget as close as the actual expenses you're gonna have. Okay. Um, so yeah, that would be my suggestion where you're building a budget, is just go through the entire trip, especially transportation, to make sure you're covering everything. So we're gonna go back to the original presentation. Um, and you can let me know if you have any other. Oops. Wait. Okay, let's do it like that. Okay. So, um, the ministry numbers. So, how do I keep? This is what we just saw. The ministry numbers. So you will send these ministry numbers of how many people participated in each ministry event, and you can send it to me. Um, and it will be also on your planning sheet. So the last session, I think you went through planning sheet. So as I said, this is like it's like gold for you when you're planning a trip. It pretty much takes you step by step, and it also gives you, when you have to consider that, like a month ahead, 2 months ahead of time. So also, if you follow your planning sheet, this will be on it. I will say you have to send your ministry numbers to Daniela um, after the trip, the team leaves. So it will say over there when you have to do it. Um, so for example, how do I send them? If an activity has multiple days, let's say you're having a kids program, and then like for this example over here, and then you have the first day you have 20, the second you have 30, and then the third you had 50, more likely most of the kids will be in day number 3, or whenever you got most of the kids. So just give me the highest number. In this case will be 50 kids for kids program, women's ministry or women's night, 15 women. And so don't send me like, don't add up every single day, because most of the people will go several days. They continue to participate during the week, and what we want to know is how many people participated in general. So just try to give me the highest day when you have more participants, and that will be the closest to the actual number. Okay, so this is really important because this is the newest things when it comes to our benefits for coaches. Okay, so let's start. First of all, payment per trip. So, as I said before, you are paid per trip, and this is an amount that we set up each year, and we consider uh, the cost of living in your country, inflation, the baseline for the fees that we have before, merch fees, your job description, everything. And at least this 2025 was 395. That amount will vary if you're in a country, depending on the cost of living, as I said. So like that's the baseline this year. The baseline was $395 per trip. Okay. And how do we pay you this? Well, this is automatically, we every time you have a team, you get this stipend. Okay. So this is per team you have a year. Then the second, right over here, we have two pots, we call it pot bunnies. We have one in spring and one in the fall. So each coach that is receiving teams continually each year receives money twice a year based on the total number of merged teams, not the teams that you have, but the entire amount of teams that we got as a ministry. So based on that number, we get what is called pod bonus. Okay, and that's divided between the different coaches. In order for you to get this pod bonus, you have to have continual teams. Yeah. Um, and then we also have the LT bonus. This comes from the LT budget, and this is an special amount paid from the leadership team budget to recognize any extra work that you do or sessions that you participate. And this is beyond mandatory. So let's say that we had a training that is mandatory, that may not be part of this bonus. But if it was like, hey, we're gonna have we work a lot with SOE, which is an organization that does continual training. So like, let's say that we'll send you a text and like, hey, there's this opportunity and you can train and learn more about the mission of God, and there's this class or this workshop available for you, and you participate on that, you will get an extra bonus because that's not mandatory thing. It's not on your job description specifically. So we want to honor that as well, honor your time invested. So you get extra bonus for that from that budget. Okay. So these are the three bonuses that I say you will get besides the teams that you plan. And in order to qualify for this, you just have to have continual teams each year, at least two. So as I said, these three, the money that you get depends on the total number of merged teams and how responsible or coaches manage their budgets. This is how we get the money. So these, for example, like if we get 50 teams in a year, obviously this is gonna be way more than if we get only 15. Okay, because there's a fee that they pay and goes to these pots to actually covers this bonus. So the less teams or participants we get on a year, the less fees go to these different pots. So just to give you an idea of like where that money is coming from and how it works and why it can vary each year when you get an email. Okay. And for example, in this case, if you go over budget, this is super important. If you go over budget on your trips, you spend more money that you put on your budget, we will need to use the money that will go to our pots and bonuses to cover those extra expenses. So we will all lose money if we are not, as coaches, responsible with the money that we get for teams. Okay. So try your best to stay within your budget, because then we don't have to use these fees to cover those extra expenses that were emergency expenses or any other thing, right? So we want to make sure we are all stay within our budgets so we are all able to get these bonuses. Okay. Then the last one, professional expense. This is an amount of money you are given, or that an amount of money that is allotted to spend in items you need for ministry. We will go over that in a few seconds. but is that you need for ministry. And the amount you're given, it really depends on how much fundraise. So 2 years ago, our professional expense was great because we really did a really good job fundraising. But this 2025, we fundraised as coaches really bad. So we even got like half of the money that we got last year. So as I said, when you look at the amounts and you're like, why are so different each year? Well, this is the reason. It depends in some cases when you get the pot, it has to do with how many people, how much participants, how many teams, and if we stay within the budget. But in the case of professional expense, is how well we fundraise as a ministry, as all the coaches are fundraising. So just wanted to know where the money is coming from. And all of those are different from this payment per trip. That does not vary. During the year, you will have for sure the set amount every time you lead a team. Okay. So I hope it was it was clear because this is the new part uh, to explain. Okay, so professional expense account. So this is an amount of money sent to each coach every year. It can only be used to buy or pay for things that we will enhance the coach's ability to do their job for merch. So, what do you mean? What kind of things we can use or how can we use it? Well, it can be fixing or replacing your phone, your computer, because you do need that in order to plan your trips and stay in communication. So please, this is a priority. Like cell phone, computer, or internet coverage. This is a must cover with the professional expense if you get a professional expense account. Okay. But also maybe your phone works and it's a new phone. But also you can buy a pair of shoes for merch trips or essential items for traveling, like a backpack or clothing that is appropriate for you to use in teams, raincoat if your site requires it. You can also use it for classes to improve your work at merch. And this is, for example, the kind of things that you need to ask ahead of time so we know like if that applies, okay? This is the amount, the type of expenses that I will say before you spend the money, let me know. Okay. So I can let you know if it will be covered. For all these, you need for sure your receipts. Okay. This is super important. We cannot reimburse you for any of this without the receipt. Also, another thing you can use it for is as a we said a microloan, but it's actually a business, a personal business that you can start and that can help you to be more self-sustainable. Um, just you need to keep in mind these 4 points when spending the professional expense. So first, this amount will only be available until September 30th each year because that's when our fiscal year ends. So your receipts that you can actually turn in is from October 1st to September 30th of each year. So all the expenses that you do on September 3rd, after September 30th each year, it will go through the next year. So I will be like, you have to be really careful because you might not apply for a professional expense next year. So you have to make sure you always ask, hey, Danny, can I spend this? Will merch cover this for me? And I can let you know, okay? But as I said, this amount is only available to September 30th. So for example, right now we have 3 more days for to actually spend the professional expense this year. That's an example, right? Point number 2, every expense needs to have a receipt. Whether you use merch money or contingency money, or if you need to be reimbursed because you use your own money. So if you don't have a receipt, we cannot cover that expense. This is super important for you to know because it's not me or Dale that decide that. It's somebody at the office. And that has to do it accordingly to the politics and finances in the US. So they cannot take the money out of this account if we don't have a receipt. Number 3, the money on your account does not roll over or accumulate over the years. Let's say that I tell you, oh, you have $30 to spend on as a professional expense this year, and then you only used 15. The other 15 will not accumulate for next year. Like if you didn't use it, it's gone. Okay. So just for you to know, because we don't want you to get confused that if you don't use it, it will go to the next year. Okay. Um, yes. Oops. Last point, number 4. If you go over budget, we cannot cover those expenses for you. So if you, let's say that you are gonna buy a printer, but you only have on your professional expense $200 and the printer costs 250, we will only be able to, even if you have the receipt, we can only reimburse you for the amount that was on your account. So we will only be able to give you 200, and the other $50 will need to come from your own money. You know what I mean? So you can turn in receipts that are over the expense, over the amount that you have on your account, but we will only be able to give you the amount that we send you and set up for your account. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. So yeah, we cannot cover for extra expenses, okay? Okay, so things that you need to keep in mind. This is the money that we fundraise as a ministry. A lot of people donate this money so the work of God can be done worldwide through merch. So we really encourage you to spend it wisely. And if you have any questions, you can always send me an email or a text, okay? And as I said, it's not only because we fundraise, it's because we also are called to be good stewards of the resources we get. So in order to get the money, you need to first make sure you check the budget, the amount that you get, before spending any money. Then you send your receipts to yeah, and pictures of those receipts, not really the piece of paper. I just need the pictures of the receipts, of course, sent on an email to Dale Lusk, and you can CC me, or you can just send it to me and I will ask the questions and then send the final to Dale and Evie. And Dale will be the one reimbursing this money once the expenses are approved. And once again, September 30th of each year is the due date to turn in these expenses. So, what about that little item that we said over there, like personal business criteria with the professional expense account? Remember, whatever money you get from the professional expense account, also you can spend it for a personal business. But there's a criteria for this. This is the criteria. Merch coaches can use their professional expense to help fund a personal small business. And some of the examples that some of the coaches can have done is they buy clothes and they sell it, and that's a personal business. Some other people bought hens to sell the eggs, and it was like part of a uh, yeah, like a farm that this coach had. So she was selling the eggs to get an extra income. You can also buy supplies for to start a business, so like as the first investment. But you can only do this 3 years, and it needs to be the same business during those 3 years. So it can, but it doesn't have to be continue years. So let's say that this year you have a professional expense and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to start this business, or I have this business already started and I just want to make sure I have extra things to for my business to grow. So then that will be the year number 1. But then maybe next year you don't need any extra, and you rather, or you need to prioritize to buy a cell phone or a computer. So then maybe the second year of that you get your professional expense, you don't spend that on your personal business, but then the year number 3 that you get your professional expense account, you will buy extra stuff for your business. So that will count as year number 1 and year number 2. Okay, even if it was 3 years total, it will only count the years that you actually use the money. Okay, so, but this is also another criteria of how you do. So the first year you can use up to 75% of the total budget, because remember, we want to make sure you're ready for ministry. We want to make sure you have those shoes or that backpack or that cell phone or charger or camera that you need. So only 75% of your of your professional expense can go to your personal business. The second year that you use this, it can be up to 50% of your total budget. And the third year that you use the professional expense for your personal business, it can be up to 25% of the total budget. Year number 4, you can only use the money for merch expenses. Okay? So this is what it means is like merch is willing to support you on this personal business up to 3 years with all these different percentages. Uh, but of course, year number 4, we have to make sure you use most all of the money, the 100%, in things you need for the ministry. Okay. Okay, so next, fundraising. This is super important, as I already explained.
Daniela,
Yes,
can I say something really quick?
of
I
course.
think that if because this part is a little bit confusing, I would recommend that any coaches that want to use their professional expense for their personal business to just check in with Daniela and say, this is my professional expense this year. I want to use it for my business. And just make sure that you know how much of it you can use each year just to make before you spend the money.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Mandy, for clarifying this. Recently, one of the coaches asked me, so I can send you, like each year, I can send you the amount, not only the percentage, but the actual amount that you can use for that, if that applies. Okay. So yeah, thank you, Mandy. This is one of those cases that I'm like, please first check up with me before you spend the money. Okay, professional expense is one of those things. Yeah. Okay, fundraising. Why do we fundraise? Well, Merge is dependent on fundraising to operate and to be able to support our coaches with financial benefits. So, as I said, our stipend for each trip, that does not come from our fundraising. But the rest of the things, professional expense and all of that does come from fundraising. So Dale has historically fundraised almost all the merch funds, like probably 93 to 95% of our funds are have been fundraised by Dale. But Dale is retiring soon. So the only way that we can stay self-sustainable is we all the coaches get involved and jump on the ship to actually fundraise all together in a really committed way. So we all need to be involved and active in fundraising. And how does that look like? Well, the coach, when the role that we have as fundraising is like sometimes you will be asked by the communication team or the fundraising team, which is like actually part of my um my area as well. uh you will be asked to send a story or a video or pictures, so you have to participate on this, please. This is one way that you can stay committed and that you can help for us to fundraise. And we just sometimes we put together a video with all of us, sometimes we send a newsletter and make sure we add your pictures, or we put a story that you share. So please answer every time we ask you to share one of these things. And also another thing that you have to be involved at is like every closing spiel that you have with each team when they finish the trip, you have to include, and that's in the outlines of the closing spiel, an invitation to partner with Merge financially. So every time a team is leaving, you just have to say, hey, and we really remind you that we operate on based on fundraising. We invite you to partner with us financially. If you have any questions, come and talk to me about it. And we will give you as many tools as you need. If you need a presentation, we can make it for you. If you need this spiel, like I don't know how to say it or how to answer, we have actually some tips that we can give you uh so you can ask these questions, okay? To partner with Merge financially. And then another thing that we do is you can send a personalized email to the leader and other participants who show interest on donating during the closing spiel, right? Like somebody maybe after you said it came closer and say, hey, I really want to donate, and you make sure you get that email. Make sure you get those emails so you can send the letter to those teams when we ask for fundraising, and send the link where they can, support us financially. And if you need an example, you can let me know, and I can, or any other experienced coach, and we can send you. Sometimes we send like uh, it's like an example with like just the things that you have to fill, like the name of the leader, and maybe more like a personal story, and then the invitation. I know sometimes in a specific, like in other countries, like in my country, it's really hard for us to donate. It's not a cultural thing, and we know that other countries is not a cultural thing either, but in this United States it is. Like they are it's really common for them to donate. They are really generous. And they are used to people, you know, to share those opportunities for them to partner with the ministry financially. So I know for some of us, it's like it goes like our personal culture can be really hard, or our culture in their country, but we can give you the tools so it's easier for you, okay? But we all have to be involved in this, and these are the ways that we can do it. And let me check if there's anything else in the presentation. I don't know why it's not going further. Let me stop and check, because maybe I just got to the final of the presentation. Yeah, but let me know, do you have any further questions as I'm checking this? When it comes to finances, I know it's a lot of information, so don't worry, don't stress out if you're like, oh, like I probably can't remember every single thing, but I'm there for you to answer all these questions on daily basis. Oh yeah, that was the last one. Okay, perfect. So yeah, do you have any further questions about finances right now, about the things that I explained? If not, I will just continue. Oh, yeah.
About fundraising.
Uh-huh.
From what you said, I think maybe to ask, does it mean when we talk fundraising, a lot of it is done by the office, and maybe individually you cannot fundraise individually. Let's say I had contacts that could be potential people that can donate to the ministry. How do I bring them in if they need they can be able to support whatever it is that we're doing with Merge? Like individually, can I bring in people?
Okay, it was cutting off. So let me know if I understood correctly your question, Patrick. So you mean like how can you bring people to donate specifically to Merge, or you mean to the local ministry? Do you mean the local ministries that they got involved at during the week, or to Merge?
Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. My question is,
Okay.
if I had people that I think would be potential donors or potential partners for ministry, can I bring them in? Because from what I heard from you, maybe a lot of fundraising is done by the bigger March, Dale and the others. So like if I had individual donors that I think are potential, can I bring them in?
Bring them in to Merge
For fundraising.
For fundraising? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like to support the ministry.
Yeah, totally. Like if you know other people that maybe are not part of the trip, or they were not on the team, but maybe right now you know people that will be interested in donating to Merge. Yeah, doesn't have to be a team participant. It can be people that you just know they share the vision of Merge, and they want to donate towards Merge, and they will be interested. Yeah, you can totally share or send an email, and I can give you more information so you can invite those potential donors. Yeah, totally. Doesn't have to be somebody that went on a team. Yeah. Thank you,
Okay,
Patrick.
thank you.
That's a good question. Yeah, this will be really helpful for everybody. Does anybody else have an extra question or any other question about finances? Okay. If not, then I think this will be it for the. I don't know, you just.
Thank you, Daniela,